realize that the other player's missed his hand most of the time, and you got to be willing to make that extra bet.
And you got to be willing to make those thin value bets. Like it can be totally correct to do something like, all you have is like third or fourth pair on the river and you're betting for value.
Right.
You're actually hoping and expecting you'll often get called by worse.
Any pair's good, usually.
Well, if you make even one pair, it's usually a hand that your first thought isn't, I need to get away from this. And a big first raise from Ryan. We're still at 40-80, aren't we? And he makes it 280. I'm really kind of surprised.
Are we at 40-80 or 50-100?
Did we go to a 50-100? I'm not sure we did.
I don't remember.
Even if it was 50-100, that's still a big raise. That's still almost 3x. Maybe this will be like a hand when I won the HPT event in St. Louis, where my opponent, I thought he was going to be a really good player at heads up, and his first raise on the first hand, he like open raised his button for like 4x, and I was like, what?
Was that me, Greg?
No. Why am I blanking? I know this guy's name. He was a young guy, and he played really well the whole tournament that I played with him. And he made the raise, and I hadn't looked at my cards yet, and I thought, you know what? Because of his stack size, if he just did a normal like 2x raise, if I was going to play at him, I wouldn't be shoving. But now that he made it 4x, I'm like, wow, if I'm going to 3-bet here, my correct move is to shove.
Yeah.
And I was the chip leader, but I really felt like he wants me to shove. Like he's trying to induce a shove, and he thinks like it's the first hand heads up and Greg's the chip leader. I think he might play aggressively no matter what. I'm like, I think he has a hand where he wants me to shove. And so then I look down at pocket kings, and I'm like, well, I'm going to oblige. And I said all in, and he's like, I call. And he flips over 2 queens, and he's like, he's already fist pumping. Yeah. And then I'm like, I didn't slow roll or anything, but then I table my 2 kings, and he sees that, and he like almost like falls.
Oh, hell yeah.
He was already like fist pumping and turning to his friends on the rail to like high five.
I think guys would know better.
And then he looks at my cards, and he's just like, like what are the chances? And so that was like, I think it might be the only time I've won a tournament where we played one hand heads up.
When I won the Michigan one last fall, it was 2 hands heads up.
Yeah. I've had lots of short heads-up battles, but I don't remember off the top of my head any other one-hand.
Yeah, that's
one-hand
unusual. It's unusual unless one guy's so short on chips that he's got a pretty wide range.
Like I almost won the one in Albuquerque on the first hand.
Really?
Like I got the guy all in and he was behind, but he won and doubled up, and then we played 20, 30 hands heads up before I beat him. But like I got them all in and behind, and I was thinking like, man, how are they going to turn this into a TV show? Like we went from 6-handed because it was still 6 back then at the final table, and it was a worse structure, less play.
Yeah.
And like we went from 6 to 1 in like an orbit or 2.
What did you think of the show when it came out?
It turned out it was like, I guess we played a few more hands than I had realized before we got to heads up. But they're trying to make 2 one-hour shows out of this, and I thought, okay, if I knock this guy out, they're going to have to show like every single hand, including like, just like, Greg raised, everyone folded pre-flop.
Yeah.
Type hands. They're going to have to show every hand to turn it into a show.
Well, I'll tell you, if Ryan has anything that works against him here, especially heads up, it'll be his willingness to not believe the other player, and if the other player wakes up with hands, it could cost him a lot of chips.
I know where you're getting at, but if I was going to pick a flaw for a guy heads up, it would be too inclined to believe his opponent and make big laydowns.
Oh, I definitely agree.
I don't believe my opponent, and I call him down.
No, I agree. That's why I said if the other person wakes up with hands, it's going to hurt him. But if he doesn't wake up with hands, it definitely favors Ryan. And it's not easy to wake up with hands heads up.
Yeah. Well, there's no doubt like it's anyone's game, and it's not. I certainly am not trying to suggest that Jay hasn't been playing well. I'm just saying that he seems to be more on the solid side of it, and that isn't enough for heads up.
No.
You can be a solid heads up player, but the same kind of range of hands you're playing when you're a solid heads up player would make you look like a super loose aggressive maniac at a full table.
Mm-hmm.
That's a nice wet card. Brings
Yep.
some straight draws in, makes some 2 pairs possible. Brings another flush draw in that would maybe get someone motivated to not fold. All kinds of fun possibilities. Now we get like an 8 or a 10 on the river, and that's like a massively wet card. I've had lots of boards like this where it's like just possible straight cards. Just fill it out. Lots of 1-card straight possibilities all day long. I'm not trying to rub it in, by the way.
No, I know that. Now I think
realized.
Ryan's in trouble if he makes this call right here. That's my personal opinion right now.
This doesn't. I mean, those aren't enough chips to raise. That's like a call.
That's a call.
You think Jay's in trouble, you mean? Or you think Ryan...
No, I think Ryan's in trouble if Jay makes the call.
Okay.
Now I think Ryan's in trouble.
So you think Ryan's behind and
Yep.
maybe drawn thin or something?
That's my opinion.
All right. Well,
he could be on a draw,
you're
but
good
I
at
just
reading
don't
people.
think so.
Yeah, the hard part, too, is like when we're playing there at the table, like if I'm heads up against Ryan, I'm never looking away.
Yeah.
Here, like the camera cuts and then we can't see stuff that might have made the difference in our read of him. Like, oh, we weren't looking at the time he gave off the tell.
Ryan might be betting here just in case Jay is on a flush draw. But if Jay made a hand earlier...
So you don't think Ryan has much of a hand right now? That's your read?
I don't know. I don't think so.
He got called already, I think.
475 was the bet. Jay makes the call and shows the jack deuce. The jack is a jack spade. For a pair of jacks, Ryan had what? 8 of clubs, deuce clubs.
Told you.
Yep, you're right. He had air. Total air ball.
Yep. That's a big pot. 2.7 million right there plus what he had.
I mean, the interesting question here would be, like, Jay has top pair. So, I mean, you don't have to be, too nitty to say, like, we're heads up, I flop top pair, I'm just not going to fold. But, what would he have done with, like, if he had just made a pair of sixes? Mm-hmm. If he had, maybe he had 7-8 on this flop, and then he hit the 7 on the turn. Does he still make that call, knowing that he beats all the bluffs and even a few value hands with cards like that? Or does he now get too tight? And I'm not saying that he would get too tight. I'm just saying that's the real question.
Sure. That
would kind of define just how skillful he is at heads-up play is, how often would he correctly call with some of those other hands that weren't as strong as top pair?
Well, I do, I told you what I thought happened in that hand, but I really respect the fact guys that aren't afraid to put chips out there and just keep going with their feeling just to see, because with the two of each suit out there, I mean, there's a good reason to believe maybe he might call a bet if he was just on a flush draw.
Wait, I just heard the words all in.
Jay goes all in.
All right, so Ryan open raised.
I'd say Jay is working his game here a little bit.
Yeah, he's definitely opening up there. I mean, I think Ryan open limped, and then Jay just shoved, which is like, wait, you're just shoving there when he has I
think Jay's got almost
4
million here. No, he does have 4 million.
There it is, 14.
1.7.
Yeah, it's like 1,500,000, something like that for Ryan. So that leaves about 4 million for Jay, and
I'd keep him, but it wouldn't be right.
but I'm just kind of surprised. I mean, I'm not sure if I like that with any hand. I mean, the guy open limps the button, so he's saying he has at least a little something.
Yeah.
He either has a little something that he can never call with when you shove 1.7 million, or he was trapping you and he has got a happy snap call.
Well, Ryan might, he may limp again when he's got aces, kings, queens, or jacks. And next time.
Hell,
Yeah.
It'll be a couple, 2, 3, 4 hours on average before he sees one of those hands.
No, that's true, but he looks defeated already.
Yeah, he does definitely seem on the downside, the low energy look and everything.
He's going to need something good to happen to get out of this.
Jay checks the 12. All players check the flop. Let's see the turn card. Turn card is the 4 of spades. Ryan is first act.
Well, if Jay has a little something here, I really like the check. Like if he paired the 5 or the 6, It's like Ryan has definitely shown the willingness to, make the move.
Checks as well. Both players
So even though you'd think, like, well, wait, if I have like a 5, do I really want to risk giving a free card? Because, like, almost everything here on the river is going to be an overcard and
Right.
might have beat me. But you got to be willing to, like, if you're going to play it that way, you got to be willing to snap call, when he does bet this river. Like, you don't get scared and throw your 5 away.
bet 250,000. Ryan folds, and Jay is going to take down the pot.
Yeah. That's what it felt like to me. Like Jay had something, and he was willing to induce bluffs, but he's now like, well, I ran out of chances to induce a bluff.
Yeah.
I got to try to
Have
get a
to
little
bet.
value.
Yep.
But I don't like the 250. It's like that's like your pot size bet. Given just the size of that bet, it's almost like, oh, that ought to be a bluff. Almost like you're betting pot size. Like, what are you going to get called by?
Yeah.
The guy's checked out all the way. I mean, you always got to be thinking about that when you're deciding whether or not to bet and how much. It's like, well, what am I accomplishing?
Ryan's going to be first to
It's
exit.
not just do I have the best hand, but how often do I get called by worse? How often do I get better to fold?
I'm surprised they're letting Ryan have his blue chips hidden behind his stack like that.
Yeah, I mean, here your heads up. All you do is count your stack and say 5.6
I know,
minus.
but even so, you should be able to just glance over and look at it.
Jay checks
Yeah.
his option.
And I'm sure if Jay said anything, the chips would get moved out front.
It always kills me when you watch like the World Poker Tour events or something, and somebody their heads up and they'll ask for a count on the other guy's stack, and the guy will go, "Count your own stack,"
Yeah,
and
it's
then
like-
do the math.
yeah, like we got 40 million chips in play. You
Yeah.
know that, so just
Yeah,
count yours.
you got
and-
30. I think you'll pretty much figure it out.
Yeah, I must have 10. Duh.
It just looks better for TV if you got the. Everybody knows the blues are the big chips. You should have them out front.
Ryan folds, and Jay's going to take down the pot.
Brian is looking defeated. He needs something good to happen here
Yep.
to get out of the funk that he's obviously in.
Well, now he's a couple more hands, and he'll be short enough that he will have to like shove or fold for his first move.
Right.
About 20 minutes left at this level. 10,000, 50,000, 100,000 on the line. Started with 189 players down
And
to
he's got 14 big blinds right now. So again, that's enough that
for HPT main event.
I'm not too excited if I'm coaching Jay to tell him to shove, just open shove.
Yeah.
But it's also like, but wait, there's so many hands though that like, again, like I have King 7
First stack here on
and I'm Jay. I'm like, I don't want to just raise and then have him shove. And now I'm like, do I call?
Yeah, and I mean, really though, what's the point of open shoving here, even if you're short? Because you're picking up the blinds and the antes. It's such a small percentage of your stack heads up. I don't know that it makes sense to do that. You need to play out some hands and hope to hit a hand because you could do that open shove 4, 5, 6, 7 times and be right, and then all of a sudden you're wrong and you're out of the tournament.
Well, part of it is also what response are you going to get from the opponent? Is he going to call with hands that were really silly to call with? Or is he going to be folding way too often and you can just be shove, shove, shove and actually double up, without ever being all in?
That is the blue and then the one on the card.
Looks like Ryan's taking a stand here.
We had the open limp from Jay, and now Ryan's making a big bet, but not all in. I'm kind of not liking the sizing, because if you are trying to induce a shove from Jay, like, make it smaller, give him hope that it'll work.
Yeah.
Like, that's a big enough raise that you're kind of saying to him, I ain't going to fold. But if that's the case, then why not just go all in?
That's true, but some guys will make that move with pocket 5, 6, 7s, 8s that they don't want to give up. But they want you to pay for it if you're going to make it because they know they're going to see 2 overcards and they're not going to know where they're at.
But that's the thing, though. If you had a hand like that, though, and he somehow just calls you for the 400, well, now what do you do if he goes all in on the flop?
Yeah.
Like, you're setting yourself up for the stop and go play there, where Jay might decide, like, well, this hand's good enough that even if he'd shoved, I wouldn't have folded.
Yeah.
But now that he's done that, I'm going to call, and then I'm going to shove every flop.
And people
And
wonder why
maybe
this
get him to make a wrong decision.
people wonder why this game is so complex and how many ways there are to look at everything. You watch it on TV and initially and you think, oh, this is easy. I could do this. Well, you really don't have a clue.
Well, that's why so many, of the, like, like the recreational players out there, like, can play so badly and yet think they're so good.
Yeah.
Because they feel like they know it all because it's like you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And Jay's going to make the
Are
call.
you talking about me again?
No. Not even you. You just think I'm like down on you, Craig. I don't know.
I'm just giving you
I mean,
crap.
if I see you make a mistake and I say something, it's because we're friends, and I know that you would
I would
appreciate
fully
the
expect
advice.
you to. I would fully
Not
expect
because
you
I'm like trying to put you down.
to. No, I don't profess to think that I know this game near as well as I should. Believe me.
I'm sure I make lots of decisions that you think are wrong, but you're just such a polite guy that you don't point it out.
No,
but I'd be perfectly
no.
happy for you to say, like, Greg, why
No,
did you do that?
the difference in us is you are a math player and I am a feel and situational player. We're totally different players. So I would never say you're wrong in anything that you do. I know that it's well thought out. So I just don't know that I would make that play. That's all I'm saying.
Well, but well thought out can be wrong also because you're thought about lots of things, but not really the right things.
Right.
I mean, one of my best friends back when I lived in Connecticut, we would talk strategy, and he had a very good, especially this is like before the poker boom. So, relative to everyone else in that era, his understanding was really strong.
Yep.
But then he just didn't hardly ever seem to do well in any of the tournaments. And it'd be like, he would be talking to me about like the hand where he busted, and he'd be like, well, this is why I knew the guy had to be bluffing. And I'm like, okay, that is a good reason to suggest he's bluffing, but what about this, this, and this that would suggest he shouldn't ever be bluffing?
Yeah.
And he'd be like, oh, of course. Like, in other words, he knew all the stuff, but in the moment he would tend to focus on the one thing that stood out the most and kind of ignore all the other factors.
Do you ever feel like though that there's a chance that you are so technical and so mathematical in your thinking that it throws off other ways of looking at it that might, I mean, you're so advanced in your thinking. Do you ever think that maybe that works against you in some circumstances?
Well, I hope not, but I mean, the hard part though is like let's pretend you and I are sitting here at the table and there's a guy who's just really bad. I might not really be able to figure out like what's going through his head, and therefore I can't read him as effectively as someone else, because it's like, in other words, his reasoning does not make sense. It makes sense to him, but it doesn't actually make real sense. So it's kind of hard to figure out how he thinks about things. Whereas if what he was doing kind of made a little sense, but he was still wrong, it'd be like, okay, well, that's, like there's a logical basis for this. It's just not quite right. Mm-hmm. So it can be, hard in that sense. But, I mean, you always say I'm a math player, but, I mean, I do a lot of my decisions based on feel, but it's not just feel in some, ethereal sense. It's more of a, like, this or that mannerism. I mean, like his body language is saying to me he's weak or he's strong, and therefore I'm using that to guide my decision.
I don't mean that you don't notice that stuff. That's not what I'm saying at all, just so you know.
But to me, if someone says I'm a feel player, to me that should mean, like, I put a lot of weight and a lot of emphasis on the read.
Yeah.
As opposed to, like, I feel like I'm supposed to play right now. I'm like, well, what do you mean you feel like you're supposed to play? Like, did you feel that way before you even looked at your cards? Like, so you were going to play even if it was deuce 7 and someone's already gone all in? In that sense, I don't. If that's what anyone means when they say I'm a feel player, then I don't get it.
Yeah.
But if they say, like, I go with my feel in terms of, like, I think he'll fold, so I'm going to raise, that's different, because now whether you're doing it consciously or subconsciously, you're reading the tells, you're reading the opponent, and you're going with that read.
Yeah.
And that is a perfectly valid basis to make decisions on. Whereas if you're just like, I feel like I'm going to play this hand because I feel like I'm going to hit, now I'm going to just disagree with you completely, no matter who you are. Like, I don't care if you've been like, hey, well, but Greg, I'm right all the time. I'm like, I don't care. You've just been lucky.
Yeah.
If you're saying like, well, like, why did you call that raise? Well, because I just felt sure I was going to hit this hand.
Yeah.
I'd be like, okay, man, that sounds like bullshit to me. So we had an open limp from Ryan on the button, which, again, I do not like. I think that's That's an error on his part, and now Jay's raising 200,000 more, and he's calling to see a flop.
I don't like that either, but sometimes if you do that, it just confuses the living hell out of your opponent. It just confuses. They don't know where to go with it, and it might just win you a big pot because of that opening limp. You just never know. You don't know what's on their mind.
The thing is, like, he called the raise. It's like he put in 300,000, and his whole stack is like he put in like 25% of his chips. Jay snap shoves, which isn't surprising to me.
Jay is driving Ryan crazy. It'll be interesting to see when this airs on TV if he had the hands to justify these moves he was making, or if he was just making moves.
Well, I mean, he knows Ryan's really aggressive, and I think he's been like, he's been stimulating the bluff. He's been motivating him to bluff.
Yep.
And so far, Ryan has just never had a hand. I mean, in all those HPT wins, the toughest one heads up. I had Jacob Baisley heads up in Belterra, and he's a really, really good player.
Oh, yeah.
But, in hindsight, so to speak, he had no shot at winning. Not because it was me. I'm not bragging. I'm just saying the cards that were dealt to us, I'm not going to make big hero folds heads up.
Sure.
Hardly ever. And I just happen to be dealt or make the best hand, like 4 out of 5 times. So given that I'm just making the best hand over and over and over again, he can't win.
Right.
Whereas if we had reversed it and he was making the best hand 4 out of 5 times, it'd be like, it doesn't matter how much, even if I was a lot better than him, I wouldn't be able to win either.
Sure.
Because he's a good player, so he's not making big mistakes, which means if he's making the best hand most of the time, there's no way on that day I could beat him in that case.
Yep.
And that a little bit of that I think is going on right now is that Jay has just got the best hand every time. Ryan doesn't have much. But the trick for Ryan is it's like when you don't have the best hand, can you recognize that fact? Can you minimize your losses until it turns around?
Yeah.
It's not like, I held over Jacob in the duration of that heads-up play, but the hand where I won it all, it might have been the next hand he was going to start holding over me. And we don't know that.
Well, if I'm Jay and I got that chip stack, I'm putting him on his heels all the time because it's obvious, Ryan is defeated. He's just got a look on his face. He's tired, and understandably so. He was where he was, and now he's where he is, and you got to fight through that. And it's just human nature. But I would keep putting pressure on him. You've got the chips to withstand the loss. Look at he looks like he's having a hard time.
I think I was just, he had a bad hand, and he felt like, I'm not going to try to bluff you here because I don't think you're going to fold.
Yeah. I think Jay, though, I don't think he's had a hand every time, and I think that he understands enough to know what he has to do with the stack that he's got.
Well, that's the question. Does it, like he did win with the Jack Deuce, so it's not like he's unwilling to put chips in with a very weak starting hand, but one that's not unplayable for heads up. It's like, hey, it's Jack High. Like, that alone, it'll be the best hand some of the time.
Yeah.
Just because, even though it's only Jack High. And
Ryan's got to look at hands to be shoving here pretty soon.
Well, he starts this hand with 9 big blinds, so he can be shoving right now.
900K.
If he's going to play that hand, he can shove it. And that's like when Ryan raised the previous hand. It's like, hey, wait, when Jay raised the previous hand, Ryan only had 10 big blinds. It's like, and you make it 300,000. It's just like, that's almost, to me, it's like I'm trying to induce you to shove.
Yeah.
Because if he had a hand where he didn't want to happily call a shove, then he probably should have gone all in instead of making it 300. But that's why I also I prefer my standard basic strategy here is min raising the button. Like 90% of my hands I'm going to play heads up, and I'm going to min raise the button.
Yeah.
With all those hands. And if my opponent is really weak, well, I think he's just as likely to fold. And if he raises me, then if I want to fold, I lose less.
Ryan is all in.
Ryan
There we
says
go.
all in, and Jay.
Folds in. Ryan's going to win the pot.
Yeah, see, I don't like that open limp with the hand you're going to fold there. I just feel like Ryan's shoving too often.
Yeah, just fold.
Yay, Ryan
Fold it and save
going.
the 50.
About time.
To be honest, you know,
All you
until
need,
you learn
like,
more about
10
the opponent.
more,
I mean, I could almost just
make
say
them
to like
play
any
even
student,
again.
like if I only had a couple of minutes to, you know, to give someone advice on heads up, I'd be like, never call on the button. Raise or fold.
Raise or fold. That's a good idea.
You know, just if you're on the button and you're that first decision of the hand, raise or fold.
But I'll tell you what, if I'm Jay right now and I wake up with a big hand, ace king, ace queen, aces, kings, queens, jacks, tens, I'm limping again. Because Ryan thinks he knows what's going on right now. He's going to end it. You really might induce the shove when you've got the big hand.
Yeah, see, and you're right, and I'm right, because I'm talking about basic strategy where we haven't been thinking about who we're playing right now. And you're talking about Ryan.
This is
Like how to
specific
play Ryan
situation.
right now in this spot versus someone else in this spot. And, you know, and I agree with you completely, though. I mean, I think,
Keep this up.
you know, I would want to, but also since I've never open limped before, if I'm Jay, here I'm going to still do my min raise and hope that he's just as likely to, you know, induce the shove from
Yeah.
him, just because it'll look so suspicious. I mean, I was playing a stud tournament many years ago at Foxwoods, and I'm the chip leader at the final table. And of course, in stud, you already have the one card exposed, face up on the first round of betting. But every time I had any kind of playable hand, or if I had the highest up card showing, I mean, if it folded to me, I raised.
Yeah.
Every time. And now I have the highest up card, so I know I'm going to raise. And I have a 10 up. And I look down, I have 2 more 10s underneath for 3 of a kind. So it's a huge hand.
Oh, hell yeah.
And for a second, I hesitated, like maybe I should just call here. And then I was like, well, no, that would look so odd. I've raised every time.
Yeah.
So I completed the bet and ended up getting action. The guy behind me was unfortunate enough to have like 2 sevens with a 5, which against my range is definitely a hand he wanted to play. And then he ends up making 2 pair. And then, you know, I end up on the, when he's almost got most of his chips in the pot, because this is limit. So, I mean, now all of a sudden on the 6th card, I pair my 10, and he makes like, oh no, that's when he made 2 pair on 6th Street. So he makes 2 pair, like queens up or something, and I make 4 tens.
Oh, man. See, he just called off a third of his stack on a call. I don't understand that exactly for Ryan.
Well, if he's intending to shove almost every flop, so yeah, stop and go.
He's
play.
only got 900,000.
Yeah, so he's doing stop and go. I like that. There's a lot of hands where I like this play. It's kind of like, I feel like if I raise all in now pre-flop, that Jay is always going to call me.
Yeah.
But now that the flop has come, there'll be all kinds of hands. Like here at 4-8-9, like what if Jay had like king queen or king jack or something? He can now fold those hands, you know. And if I'm Ryan and I have like pocket 5s, I'm happy for him to fold there instead of 6 outs twice.
Yeah.
Get a lucky flop.
So I mean, if that was his intention, like I am shoving basically every flop, then I like the play. If he only shoved because he hit something,
just put it
then
in
I hate the
pre-flop.
play, and I'm on your side. Like I hate the call.
Yeah.
But see, that's why, given his stack
still on
size,
his
like
side,
that's why Jay shouldn't be raising. Jay should probably just be shoving.
Yeah. That's.
But now he's big enough now that it's too much to just shove. In my opinion, I don't like.
Yeah. What's he up to? 1-4 maybe. 1-3, 1-4.
I think he has 8 on the base. I think he has, yeah, like somewhere between 12 and 14 blinds. Yeah, something like he has like, well, 13. I think he has 13 big blinds, counting the one out there. So now it's big enough that he
Play
doesn't
my
want to
poker.
just shove with just anything reasonable. He wants to, you know, and why not take a free flop with a lot of your just, you know, marginal hands.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Do you bet?
Get about 100,000.
Yeah, good say. If you're gonna bet, I like that. I mean, it's like, if Jay missed this, I think you'll fold for 100. You don't have to bet 150 or 200.
Jay's gonna make the call. 100,000 and a call. Let's see the turn
But if he's
card.
got overcards, it's easy to call.
8 of clubs is the
Other-
turn card. Ryan's first stack. Ryan's gonna bet out 100,000.
That one sounds like that. Sounds like
He's gonna take down
I
the
felt like
pot.
that one was inducing. Like, yeah, I am not really expecting you to fold here, but I'm hoping to look weak and get you to shove.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's what it felt like.
50,000, 100,000.
Well, these guys have locked up 27,000 almost, and you know, so Jay has the biggest cash of his career already. He only had 8,000 as his best cash before this. according to Hen Mob. Now, Ryan isn't going to beat his best cash no matter what. He won over 111,000 in Kansas City, but this will be his second biggest cash no matter what by at least 25 to 40 odd thousand, because his only other result was 1,596 7.5 years ago. So I guess he hasn't been playing much tournament poker since then, or he's been running real bad.
No, but if he wins this, it's pretty amazing that you've got 3 cashes lifetime and 2 of them are HPT wins. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Well, it could be that he's like, maybe he plays 5 days a week in the little tournaments at the poker rooms in Kansas City, and those just don't get on Hendemot.
Yeah, true.
They're $50 and $100 buy-ins and stuff, and they're not part of a tournament series, so no one. So I mean, he might be sitting here like making final tables, 3 times a month.
Yeah.
And we just don't see it here on the Hendon Mob result.
Ryan's going to make the call. 300,000 and a call.
This is shaping up to be an interesting hand.
Well, let's see the button.
Dun, dun, dun.
Club is 7 of spades, spade of diamonds, 4 of clubs.
Doesn't look like an exciting flop.
No, but if they both have a queen, this will be over shortly. Maybe.
Let's see the turn card. Turn card is the 10 of hearts. Today's first act.
See, the way Jay's sitting and he's got his hand like over his mouth, kind of like that, I like that pose because sometimes you can give off these little micro expressions, where you, just for the briefest fraction of a second, your mouth either starts to smile or frown. And it's just the slightest little twitch at the corner of your mouth type thing. And
Well, you like that pose because that's your pose.
yeah, but no, it's a different pose for some players. Like Phil Hellmuth will sit there and he'll use kind of both hands.
Yeah.
It'd be almost like the way someone would put their chin on both of
Yeah.
their hands, but he puts it up like over his mouth, kind of under his nose. But he does it to cover his mouth because, again, he's worked with Joe Navarro, and Joe's like, see, look at this, look at that, So Phil is looking for that tell on you, and he's covered his mouth so that if he subconsciously gives off a micro expression, it's not visible.
Yep.
So you heard Jeremy last hand at 100. The next hand is going to be 6120, and these guys will be that much shorter. They got 56 blinds in play now. Got an all in and a fold, so that is that. So we're switching dealers and moving up 6120 with probably a 20,000 ante. Oh, 15? All right.
My God. We got what, 5.6 million in play, so
So 210,000 per round for these guys to just fold a couple hands. Can't afford to do that very long. And this takes Ryan back down to where he only has about 10 big blinds. So it's back to a spot here where, like, no surprise here if Ryan open shoves his button. Now he might have more like 13 or 14 big blinds. So it's not that he has to shove if he wants to make a raise, but it wouldn't be bad for him to do that. I mean, and if he were to shove and double up, then boom, he's got half the chips. Ooh, he's thinking. Seems like a marginal hand the way he's looking at it, though. I think he considered shoving that, but he just
friendly
called.
poker. First
Seems like
hand
he
of the
probably
level,
has
right?
something iffy, like a king 7, queen 8, something like that, maybe.
7 of clubs, 6 of hearts, queen of clubs.
Well, if I'm guessing right, both those hands hit. So we just had an open limp here. Now Jay leads. Now, basic strategy, I like leading here with you know, like every time I have nothing, you know, and then frequently when I have something.
Well, that's always my game, Greg.
Well, I just mean in this particular case, it's like Ryan open limped the button. There's just a really good chance he didn't flop anything. So if I'm Jay and I'm sitting here with, 9 high, any just kind of hopeless hand, it's like, why not lead out?
Yep.
And hey, if he just calls and I have 9 high, maybe I just turn second pair.
Maybe.
And hey, if he made a flush at the same time, well, FML, I'm just going to lose a big pot.
Check
Yeah.
to Ryan. Ryan checks as well. Both players check the turn. Let's see the river card.
So it sounds like pot control from Ryan, like Ryan probably has like a 6 or a 7 or an ace high that he thinks is in the lead. That's why he called the flop. Jay looking back, so you always got to like pay attention in spots like that. Like when this guy looks back, what does that mean?
Jay checks over to Ryan. Ryan checks as well. Both players check the river. Let's see a winner. Shows pocket fours for a pair of fours. Ryan's going to fold and Jay's going to take down the pot.
Yes, I should.
See, I mean, it's so odd though when you think about it. It's like, okay, I didn't raise pre-flop with a pair of
Big part
fours.
was I had a 4
But
in
now
my
there's
hand.
3 overcards and a flush draw and a straight draw. Now I want to bet. Like,
Yeah.
Why not just, shove pre-flop? My opponent, he has like, 10, 11 big blinds behind. Like if he calls me and we're flipping, oh well. But
Yeah,
hey,
you're only getting called by a better hand for sure, obviously. And
well, but he'll get called by lots of hands that are just, 2 big cards that are not paired.
yeah, that was a
As well.
pretty broad board, though, to figure that he didn't have a pair to be betting into it. I mean, I would be hoping for a check just to show down in that case, or I'd make a bigger bet, and try to take it down.
Oh,
Anyway.
sorry.
Well, but that's something like with the pocket
it's kinda
fours.
small.
It's like, unless you flop a set, like, how are you ever happy
Yeah,
about your hand? And I'd have been more inclined to, like, check call and, like, induce bluffs than to lead out
sure.
with the pair of fours.
All in.
Like, even if Ryan had a 6 there, I don't think he was ever folding post-flop, even with just a 6 with a bottom pair. So it's too hard to play the fours. You either going to play them to flop a set, or I think you play them like they're the best hand,
Yeah,
and be more aggressive with it. And since he bet the flop when he missed, he didn't just play them for flopping a set. So I'm saying you got to think about, not just like what feels like the right play this second, do I check or raise at this moment, but like, wait, if I check now, what should I be doing post flop, on different types of boards? And if I raise now but not all in, what do I do when I get called on different boards?
right.
So you got to be thinking about the whole hand and not just this street. Because that's definitely also an area where we see kind of the bad players making huge mistakes because they don't think ahead. They make a bet on the flop and then you go all in and they're like, oh my god, like that's like, I don't want to call, that's too much, but I don't want to fold. It's kind of like, well, you should have taken that into account when you made the bet,
Yeah,
as to what you were going to do if the guy
It
shoved.
doesn't really feel like it at this point when I'm super.
And it's always like a
dominated.
pet peeve of mine when some guy like makes a bet, his opponent shoves, and they take forever. It's like one thing, like if I bet 1,000 and you like, I'm all in for 30,000. It's like, okay, no one saw that
you
coming.
kind of have. Yeah,
It's like, okay, now I don't necessarily I need to take time maybe because no one saw that coming.
Yeah,
But if I bet 1,000 and you're all in for 10,000, and I'm tanking, it'd be like, as far as I'm concerned, every other player at the table should be ready to like give me a smack.
yeah.
Like, Greg, what the heck, like you bet 1,000 and you didn't consider like what if Craig shoves for 7?
No
Yeah.
idea. What
Like you didn't know what to do. If I take 30 seconds, a minute to like try to see a tell, but like unless I spot a tell or something, I should have kind of already made up my mind what I was going to do when you shoved. Otherwise, I shouldn't have made that bet.
Yeah, no, I see that.
So, but some players are just like, well, I think I have the best hand, so I'm going to bet. And 1,000 is how much I would bet for this pot size. And then the opponent shoves, and they're just like, oh my god, like it never occurred to me you might do that, because I thought I had the best hand.
Yeah, whenever I'm sitting at the table and I can figure out what my opponent's going to do before he does it, I already know I'm in great shape. I'm thinking if I'm in your position, the way this hand played out,
I call.
I'm doing this right now. And if he does it, I'm calling
for you.
Yeah.
or shoving or something.
Yeah.
I'm just
But, I mean, at least if your
back to
opponent
friendly
picks
poker.
any reasonable
You're
option,
not as bad as they say.
you should kind of have in your mind what you're probably going to do. So again, if someone all of a sudden makes a bet or a raise that's like massive, much, much bigger than you would really ever expect to see, that's different. Now all of a sudden I understand why that player wants extra time to consider it. Like, wow, like that's
God, I'm so
a
horrible
surprise.
at this.
But it's different when, like, well, I just really didn't think you were going to do anything but fold, but instead you shoved. But hey, if you were ever going to raise me, shoving was the only sensible raise to make.
Sure.
I should have been prepared for that, even if I didn't think you were going to do it.
Yeah.
You'd be like, oh my God, my read was so wrong, I never thought he'd do that. But it's like, okay, wait, was my read right? He was weak,
Yeah.
and he decided to go for it, but, I should still kind of have a thought in my head, what am I going to do here when you go all in?
Right.
Since that's a reasonable choice for you to make. But, so that's like, I'm like, when that guy's tanking now for 2 minutes and stuff, I'm calling the clock on him way quicker than I would have otherwise. Because I'd be like, you should have thought of this before you bet.
Yep.
So I'm not going to give you as much time as I might have.
I think my biggest fault that I have to work on is when I think I know where I'm at in the hand and I try to take the pot away and I'm not necessarily as strong as I want to be for the bet that I've made,
So sneaky.
and then the opponent
Sneaky.
re-raises or shoves all in on me and I have to fold when I'm on a draw. And I really would have wanted to see the next card, and I've cost myself that opportunity. I have to quit doing that.
Well,
I'm better at it than I was, but I still find myself at times doing it.
Well, if you're in first position, that's one thing. Like, you couldn't guarantee a free card anyways.
Yeah.
Like, if you checked and maybe I bet, and you still have to, like, make a call in order to see that next card. But if you're behind, that's one reason,
I'm stuck in last level.
to be, in other words, you're slightly more inclined to check behind when you have, like, a really good draw.
Yeah.
You don't want the guy to check raise if you're going to fold.
Hours. Ryan,
Yeah, I have
on
to do
Ryan,
a better
on
job of
Ryan.
keeping that in mind more often.
All I
My
was hearing.
aggressive nature comes out.
Couldn't
I'm always
even
thinking,
sleep.
and just doing the opposite of what you just said.
Yeah, well,
I'm not
played,
thinking
three-handed
that
for
one
a
step
ridiculous
ahead
amount
in
of
those
time.
instances. A lot of times I am,
Yeah.
but in those instances
all
when
I
I just have it in my mind that this guy doesn't have enough to call this bet, and then he does, not just call it, but re-raises it or shoves on me, I screw myself.
There's a lot of
I have to
voices
quit
that
doing
are
that.
stuck in my head. And that's not one of them.
Well, I mean, like I said, though, it depends. I mean, there, maybe it was just, the mistake might have just been a bad read. And that's forgivable.
Well, it always is.
I mean, I make tons of bad reads, so does everyone else, and so we all do that. But
I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of cases where I'm right and those chips come to me and I'm ended it right now and I don't need to see the next card. But the times that I really wish I had, it's like, I guess if I looked at the big picture of it, I'm probably ahead doing what I do and playing the way I do and missing those few opportunities. But you know what it's like, the most recent thing sticks in your head. I did it once today, I'm pretty sure, so I didn't get to see the next card, and I really wanted to. Hey, buddy. Hey, we have the head of the Heartland Poker Tour here, Ken Lambert.
that's right.
Oh my
He's
God!
waving at us, saying hello.
Can I have your autograph, please? What is that? Those are a couple beers that I drank because I was thirsty. And this is a live stream, so I can say whatever the hell I want right now. So,
It's not even live. It's being recorded
well,
for
yeah, it'll be on
YouTube.
tomorrow. So you'll either
So
bleep me out or
if
leave
you
me
go
in.
way over the top, they can just bleep you out.
There you go. Well, we're all set now.
I'm not sure there's any
We're having
illegality
fun.
about profanity on YouTube.
No, I don't think so. I'm going to see some of
I'm
the
not
stuff
even
that's
sure
out there.
nudity is, outlawed on YouTube. Maybe by their terms of service, but like it's
Yeah.
not like there's some legal prohibition.
Nope.
So YouTube may not like it, but they can't see us anyways. Which no one wants to see me declothing.
300,000 is the bet. Actions over to Ryan.
Trying to milk me to death. Is that what you're trying to do? A little bit at a time.
They said what?
It's
Well,
here.
it's empty, so you can take all the empty bottles you want.
It's been told, the crew's going to have to confiscate the alcohol back here, and I'm like, they're going to have to pump Craig's stomach to get it.
Oh God! I
I
was so
don't think
hungry.
they want to drink that beer.
I was so hungry, and now 3 beers into it, I'm ready. I'm ready for dinner.
300,000. And a call.
All right, we got ourselves what could be the final hand. Bruin, depending.
All right, let's see the river card.
Got a slightly wet board. That card probably didn't make a difference.
Small.
Jay is all in. One stack, please.
Jay is immediately all in.
Actions over to Ryan.
What hand are you trying to
And there's like
have?
there's like 1,000,002 or 3 in the pot. I mean, in other words, it's more than Ryan's stack. So he's getting more than 2 to 1 on this call, and so he's got to ask himself, do I have the best hand? I mean,
Is a deuce good? Tell me now. It'll make my life easy.
he's asking Jay questions, trying to get a feel for him.
I know. It's pathetic.
Well, I think these guys both played really well. So, I mean, you know, there can only be one winner, but it is what it is. You play this game long enough, you know, it's not easy to end up number one.
And if you're gonna, you know, like there's a lot of places now they have rules against talking about your hand and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But now that they're heads up, though, it's like, you know, no one else's equity is being affected.
Right.
I mean, if I start talking to you about, you know, like, well, I've got 2 pair, you can't beat that, can you, and stuff, and I'm trying to get a read, it's like people say that should be not allowed because, like, you know, what happens between you and me in this pot affects the equity of all the other players in the tournament. But that doesn't apply now. We're down to the last 2.
Yep. Yeah, but is that part of the rule that once you are down to 2, that whole thing ends and
I've never heard anyone mention that fact. I guess Ken could tell us that. He's here again. Ken, are they allowed to, like, say what cards they have and stuff like that now that they're heads up? The last 2 players in the tournament?
They're not supposed to say whatever they want. But
They're not supposed to say whatever they want.
we've been a little lenient, trying
Yeah.
to get a better show, but no, they're not supposed to be
Yeah.
that blunt.
Yeah, Greg said it doesn't really
mean,
affect
I would
any of
think
the
that
other
it ought to
players
be
at the
illegal
table, so
now.
you should be able to get
No one
illicit
else's equity.
information if you could get it.
You're not worried about players dumping chips or soft playing a friend. I mean, that's one of the reasons. The one, in my mind, the only good rationale for that rule is that I might like say to you, Craig, like, don't fold, I got it. And it's because, like, well, you're my friend, and I'm like, even though I want you to pay me off personally,
Yeah.
I'm like, I also don't want my friend to
Just
lose
lie to me.
chips. So
Just
in other
tell
words,
me
I'm
it was
soft
good.
playing you as my
Just
friend,
made a big
not
bet.
really to my own benefit.
Make
Yeah, I
me feel
understand.
better.
And now I'm hurting the equity of the rest of the players in the field. But hey, if you're my friend and I'm trying to like save you, well, now that we're heads up, I'm like, well,
Well, I'm an idiot.
who's going to stop me from just dumping all the chips and letting you win on purpose? You
Yeah,
know, I mean,
yeah.
it's like you can't control it at that point.
Yep.
See if this-
Well, that's what, even though I did that with you when we were, you know, when we were down to the final 3. I forget where we were, Prairie Meadows, and
Would have to be Prairie
I
Meadows.
dumped off my chips to you so that I could let you win because I knew you needed a third one.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what you were
Yeah,
thinking.
yeah, that's exactly what I was
I need. Greg needs this win more than I want it. So I'm sure you dumped me on purpose. That's what you tell yourself, right?
Yeah, you know, it makes me feel better.
I mean, I remember when I doubled you up in a hand at that tournament, and I
you're
called
so
your
nice
shove
to me.
with the
Don't
worst
have
hand,
any-
and you held up, and you were
my
giving me
God.
the stink eye after I called you, even though you were like a good favorite.
I would
like,
never
how
do
could
that.
you call me? Like, that's the look you glared at me. Like,
would-
how could you call?
Yeah,
You were
that
so.
was. I think that was the hand that knocked me out. Actually,
No. It was a hand where I doubled you up, and I called. It was like
Oh,
I called you all in
oh,
on like the turn or something,
Yeah.
and you were a solid favorite.
Text me or he
And
gave
and
you
the
this,
river
he
didn't
did
change
this.
anything, and you doubled up. But when I called you, you were glaring at me like you dirty.
Yeah.
Well, how could you call me there?
Well, that's probably what I was thinking in the moment. But
You know.
you and I have each knocked each other out of one final table at the HPT now. So next one's gets bragging rights. So, we're
that
gonna
was
have to
me
get
knocking you,
back there together.
and you knocking me. So obviously the next time it's me knocking you out. Sorry, buddy.
The patch.
No, I don't think that's how
You
it
get rid of
works.
the patch. Maybe that's
It's not a
what
back
you-
and forth.
You just get rid
You
of
won't be able to figure me out. You think you will, but you won't.
No one can figure you out. You're like a human random number generator. You know, like a human white noise machine. You know? It's just like.
Hey, I do what works for me. It may not be acceptable to the rest of the poker community, but I really don't care.
I like that. I never used that one before. The human white noise generator.
That's
It's
pretty
just
funny. Oh,
Look
you're a
at
sweetheart.
that.
What
Look at that.
what's your name,
Someone-
Misty? You know what?
Someone
Any-
sent Craig a beer.
If
Oh,
anybody,
my.
if anybody comes here to this hotel, this casino, you got to find Misty and tip her well because she knows when you need a beer. Thank you so much. I love you, Misty. I'm stuck here with Raymer. I need alcohol.
You can't drink enough to make me look cute.
Ugh.
And that's if you like the boys. Still couldn't drink enough to like find me cute.
Old and Jay's going to take down
Being straight, you got. You know,
Yep. Nope. No chance.
You know, you never. No one could drink enough.
Man, I am going to have a T-bone steak in that steakhouse again tonight. That was so tasty last night. They seasoned it so well.
Cool. Maybe I'll have to go for one of those lobster tails.
Yep.
Or 3.
Yep.
They're a good size.
Well, I'm buying, so you get what you want.
Oh,
I cashed in the tournament, but next time you cash,
I wonder
you're
if they
buying.
have those lobsters live and back. I could put some in a box and fly them home
Yeah.
with me.
Yeah. I'd like a dozen lobsters to go, please.
Yeah, a dozen live lobsters to go. I mean, those things live in the box just fine. You know, it doesn't get too hot.
Isn't that amazing how that thing can live? It has to be in the ocean, but you can bring it out and it can live like
As
that.
long as their like gills stay moist, they can breathe the air.
Yeah. We apologize to all you people that want us to be describing the poker right at the moment, but
Yeah, we should get back to it. I mean, this
I
could be
guess.
over in any hand.
it's
So.
true.
So what does he got there? He's got 900 on the base, 9.5 on the base, and he just won a couple hundred. So he's got like 1.2. So he's still down to 10 blinds. I mean, again, like everything else being the same, I mean, I like either shove or fold for my first move on the button here. But, I mean, it depends. I mean, once you get to know the opponent, now lots of other strategies, especially for heads up,
Yeah.
you know, become much more viable or correct, you know, better ways to play once you know your opponent. I mean, the dangerous thing here is like things like when he opens to 2.5, 3x, you know, and if he's going to fold to a raise. Unless that raise is almost never coming, you know, then you can't be doing that. You can't be raising with a hand you're going to fold unless the opponent is, you know, the reason you're folding is because this guy's almost never raising, and therefore I can fold this time. You know, and the best reason to call is going to be things like, again, like he's almost never going to raise. If he does, it's with a really good hand. You know, so I'll kind of know where I'm at. Or if it's like, hey, I'm going to induce a bluff shove almost every time, and I'm happy to call this time.
Yeah.
But, you know, basic strategy, you can put yourself in such bad spots by open limping your button.
120,000.
Twice today I had 9-4, which of course I folded, and each time it came ace 9-4, ace 9-4. It's so frustrating. I know you got to
But
be
that
in
one you don't
position.
really feel bad about it, so you're not going
No,
to lose any
I
sleep.
know, but it just would have been nice.
You know, it's a little different like if there's an all-in and a call and now you fold, you know, like, oh
Yeah,
man,
I know.
ace, queen, and you finally decide you're beat and you fold, and now you would have got there, whether you were ahead or behind.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh man, I was almost going to call with it. You know, like,
Sure.
Whereas the 9-4, I doubt you really thought about that before you folded. You didn't sit
Yep.
there and sweat that one out, I hope. Okay.
Ryan folds, and Jay is going to take down the pot.
And that puts him down to under $1 million. He definitely wants to be doing the all-in or fold at this point, now that he only has like 8 big blinds.
Alright, dealer. I'm gonna need a lot of help here.
See, I would love it if we'd been seeing all the hole cards in the sense that we could really see, like, has Jay just like,
I know.
has he gone from like super tight
Slightly
solid
better
at
than
a, you know, at a fuller table? Because he didn't seem to open up enough to me, you know, as it became, you know, like 6-handed and 4-handed. It seemed like he was still playing a little too much on the tight solid side.
I agree.
But now that's definitely not been the case for heads up. So
He's
is
playing
it,
really well.
Is it because he had the lead and he's, you know, because you see that a lot too. Players who, like, if they're just average or below, and I don't just mean final table, but at any point in the tournament, if they're average or below, then they're super tight, solid, nitty players. But then if they get the lead, they just all of a sudden just become massive maniacs. You know,
Yeah.
just raise.
I know.
You know, even if they're not getting away with it, they like until they lose that chip lead, they just cannot stop themselves from raising and playing most hands.
I like Jay just laying down that hand and letting Ryan take the chips because if you do that right and the other guy wakes up with jacks, queens, kings, or aces, and all of a sudden he's not in the pot, it's so demoralizing.
Oh yeah.
The odds are he won't have that hand, but just in case he did, it's not a bad move.
My first time I ever made like the final table of a major event was when the Orleans Open was still considered a major. It was like a $500 limit hold'em tournament. I get to the final table with 55% of the chips. Just overwhelmingly. I have 10 times as many chips as my average opponent.
Mm-hmm.
At the final table, I won a single pot. And then they gave me a walk. It was the only hand I won at the final table. They gave me a walk.
Where did you finish?
Guess what I had when they gave me the walk?
What?
Two aces. I had
Yeah.
two aces. I mean, and it was the
I thought it
only
might have
hand
been
I
queens or
won.
kings, but oh my
Yeah.
god.
I finished fifth.
Yeah.
You know, and the funny thing too is
Oh,
like
for sure you
I
have to snap
almost
on
every
me.
hand I played, I had the best hand until at least the turn of the river.
Yeah.
So it was just like, you know, I ran like God.
Yeah.
I mean, to get that many chips, you just have to be like the deck has to be running you over,
Yep.
whether you're playing good or not. And then this is limit hold'em, which has a much higher luck factor than no limit. So I mean, I was just winning almost every hand I was playing for the whole tournament until we got to the final table. And then at the final table, just this absolute turn, this flip, flipping the switch from on to off in terms of how I was doing. So it's really, amazing to think about how it can go like that, in the short run.
Well, I had the opposite today. I started out really hot. Obviously, I went from 439,000 to 1.9 million.
Yeah.
So I mean, obviously, I was getting hands, but I've never ever had a final table that even came close to comparing to today. I flopped two straights. I mean, how often do you do that? Not very often. I did it twice.
Yeah.
I had pocket aces. I didn't get paid, but
Guess I don't even know you had them because I
yeah,
got
I
shown.
know. I know everybody folded.
Those rat bastards.
Check the flop. Let's see the turn.
So we have another limped pot here, and it's going check.
Checks over to Jay. And Jay checks the flop.
Jay's out of
So
blue chips.
I like Ryan betting here if he has nothing on the turn. And again here, like if he has absolutely nothing, I would tend to bet.
See you winner.
Jack high.
Jack
There's no
high.
way you
Jack
don't
high,
have
Jack
it.
high. 6-3. 6 high. Jay's gonna win the pot with Jack high.
Yeah, I like betting there because
Yeah.
that's he's not going to call you a jack high.
No, put a bet in there and see
That
what he
one's gonna
does. I
make
mean, if he has nothing, obviously with his chip stack, he's
that's the
got to
one they'll
fold.
pick,
So I mean, what are you?
sure.
I mean, you're just giving him opportunities.
Jay might take that opportunity to bluff raise, but if he's gonna if you're Ryan and you bet that turn and Jay raises you, he kind of has to put you all in if he's going to raise.
Yeah.
And is he really going to risk doubling you up where he has like jack high no draw?
Here,
No,
Ryan-
I know.
Jeremy
So
over
it's
there
like,
say, Ryan
and he
doubles
has so
up
many other hands in his range that are also so weak.
right here.
To be honest, I think Jay should have bet the river with the jack high because a lot of Ryan's range might be like a queen high, king high,
Well,
something like that.
when I get down to three players or heads up, I sit there and I think about blackjack hands I've played over the years and how often do you look down and see what would be a big poker hand? It's so in blackjack goes so fast, and if you just think of it that way and you bet based on that, you could really put a lot of pressure on other people.
Ryan says all in.
Ryan's all in. Action's back to Jay.
What's he gonna do? Is he getting tired? Does he want to end
See,
it?
I mean, here it's like, since it was a limped pot pre-flop, now he's just all in, boom, first action. It's like you can't, it's hard to give him credit for a really good hand. It's like he might have just paired one of those cards and he doesn't want to give you a shot to hit
Yeah.
your 6 outs on your overcards.
Yep.
And also a lot of his range though is going to be draws.
But do you really want to double him up, hoping to hit an overcard? I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know.
No, I'm not saying that Jay should call here when he just has, 2 overcards. But you also don't really put Ryan on that strong of a range. Mm-hmm. I put him on, he paired one of these cards, or he has 2 spades, or even just has 3x.
Just a deuce.
Deuce.
So
Just
yeah,
a
the
deuce.
deuce,
That's all
but
I
he's like,
needed,
and I
the
don't,
deuce.
and I like
Come on,
Ryan's
you got
shove
more
there
than that.
just fine.
That's all
If I have a
needed.
deuce and a
It was
10,
good.
I'm like, it's not like I want to bet
Unless you say
so
call.
that you
And
shove
it was
and I
really
can
bad.
now call with bottom pair.
You had more than that.
It's like right now, again, I know you have at least
going,
6
what would I
outs.
think?
Yeah.
So I like his shove, but, I'm certainly not going to fold like a pair of 4s or better.
No. I wouldn't think so.
or two big spades or anything like that.
But what a brilliant move it is when you do have a big hand and to make that shove in that spot. Guys don't want to give up the value of the hand and make that move. I've been making it more and more, not pre-flop, mostly post-flop.
Yeah.
And with my reputation, I can get paid off really well when I do that.
Well, and it's different too at a full table because both players have a stronger. Their range of starting hands is so much stronger than for heads up. You know, like someone says Jack 5 and your heads up, it's not like you're like, how did you play that? You know,
Yeah.
how could you play Jack 5?
Are you kidding me?
You know, but if we're at the 9-10 handed table and a guy who voluntarily came in shows you Jack 5,
We're all in a call. Jay's got
Bada
what?
boom.
He looks
Five
pretty
ball.
happy.
5 ball.
Ace of diamonds, 5 of hearts.
5 ball.
Ryan.
Corner pocket.
Jay's
You can
got
do
ace
it.
of hearts,
Right off
8
the
of
bat.
hearts.
Ace 8 versus 8-5.
Currently in the lead. Ryan's
Or you can just
seven
give
of
me all
hearts.
diamonds.
What Ryan realistically wants to hope for is just lots of big
2, 3,
cards.
4. That works.
Yeah.
He wants
so that they
everything
chop.
9 and higher so
chop
that
things
they can
5.
have lots of chop outs.
Jay's currently in the lead with ace of hearts, 8 of
5
hearts.
of clubs.
Ace of hearts, 8 of
Obviously,
Five
hearts.
of diamonds.
obviously the 5 is great for
Got ace
him,
of
but
diamonds, 5 of hearts.
what he doesn't want to see is
And his
deuce,
ring light is at risk.
6.
This might mean dinner time, Greg.
Could be you're going to get your steak soon. Oh, yeah, the hearts.
Oh, look at the hearts. He's
Well,
real.
but he
He
does
took away.
have at
Seven of
least,
hearts, deuce of hearts.
Yeah.
5 of clubs still
at
works.
least you know, his 5 is the heart, so he can't pair his 5 and make
No.
be drawn dead.
Also pick up the
So he needs a 5, or what he's looking for now again is the board to pair. Like, pair that deuce for me. Pair that 7. Give me some outs.
Turn card is the king of hearts. King of
That's it.
Jay Rollins, well done, sir. Congratulations.
Yeah, these guys played really, really well. Everybody did. Everybody played really well. I didn't see a lot of weak weak spots, actually.
I really appreciate it.
That's
job.
27,000 for Ryan Greger, almost 27,000, and over 43,000 for
every
Jay
move I got.
Friedman.
Man,
By far the biggest cash of his career. So now he has 23 results on Hendon Mob, and several of those results were HPTs. He was a 15th and an 8th previously on HPT, and that puts him in the running potentially for Player of the Year if he wants to come play. You know, and one more win, and then he's right up there.
Well, pleasure spending the time with you, Greg. Thank you
Appreciate
for
it.
being here with you, and
Let's get you some money.
I'm looking forward to dinner.
Yeah, especially since we all heard you say you're buying. Like, I got evidence now on
Wait,
YouTube.
wait, wait. Did I say that?
It's there, man.
No, of
you're gonna
course.
have to bribe Kirk to edit it out
No, it's-
before he puts it on YouTube.
We're good. We're good.
Yes, be here. Come.
Good night, everybody.
Go all the way here.
Thanks a lot. That was Craig Casino, the legend, all-time money leader on the HPT, and now one of the top guys in contention for Player of the Year this year. I'm Greg Fossilman Raymer, and we've been proud to chat with you guys. Hopefully you enjoy this video on YouTube, and hopefully we'll get technical stuff solved, and this will be live streams for every event going forward. Thanks a lot. See you next time.
Congratulations, guys.
Ready?
Yeah. Hey, I appreciate
well.
it. I appreciate it.
Congratulations. You
It
deserve
was.